Hi everyone, I'm on today with Maya. Maya's a UGC creator here. She's been a part of the UGC world for a bit and she has, gotten amazing success over the past few months. And we're going to dive into that story today and her transformation today so you guys can kind of pick it apart and learn from her story. Hi Maya.
Hi, thank you for that intro.
Yeah, for sure. So Maya, tell us a little bit about yourself. Like what is your name? How long have you been doing UGC for? And we'll just start there.
So I'm Maya. I have been doing UGC for now the past 2 years. It's literally flew by so quickly. And of course, like over the course of the 2 years, I've definitely learned and grown a lot. And just being in the space of just, content creation, influencer marketing, especially. And honestly, just trying to being from like part-time UGC to now full-time has just been so crazy, just going through the motions and going through all the steps to even get here. So it's honestly like so cool to even say it out loud.
Yeah, for sure. So you said you went from part time to full time. So were you working a regular job or break that down for us?
Yeah. So when I started UGC, I actually started in college. And this was during COVID. So you can only imagine how hectic and chaotic it was. And especially in the content creation space, I kind of did a little bit of just, influencing stuff, like posting on Instagram here and there, but not like really taking it seriously. And when I was kind of going into my college experience, I was really open the door to what UGC was because I didn't know what it was. User generated content was just like, huh? Like it sounded like a stranger, like a whole different world. So going into the space and starting it, I was more treating it like a hobby. So with doing it, maybe like a video project every once a month or maybe two, depending on how college my schedule was, and also just like taking on other external like opportunities as well. So it was definitely an interesting journey to balance both UGC and also like my external responsibilities. And I think from there, I was really able to actually understand through my peers that I was surrounded with that also did like content creation or maybe like influencing full time, what it was like. And so, me being very pessimistic, I was just like, UGC full time? Like, I don't think this is like an actual thing. Like, how are you guys making actual money from this? And obviously, that's like a valid question because if you, of course, don't understand like the systems in place and what you should actually do. It's kind of like mind boggling of, even thinking you can make money from content creation. So after I graduated college, I, of course, went into influencer marketing right off the bat. And that was kind of like my intro into becoming like a traditional marketing girly and kind of just following the route of everyone else. So going into that, I honestly can like picture back to like the feelings and what I was experiencing. Obviously, the job itself was really fun. It was really cool, but obviously in my heart, like I knew this wasn't what I was supposed to be doing. And I honestly felt so depressed most of the time because it's kind of like when you're in this like shell and you're supposed to be like out of your shell, but you're just stuck. That was kind of what I was feeling for, the whole year that I was working at this job. So when I finally reached a point where I met Gloria actually, and I guess in April, and kind of introducing that like it was during that transition where I was, quitting my job and, going into the next step in my life. She introduced me to the idea of doing UGC full time. And that's where I was just like, okay, like, let's just give it a shot because I have nothing to lose. And, doing it part time, like, it was something that I knew I already had experience in, but doing it full time and really doubling down on everything was just something that was completely new to me. So after like we had that conversation, Gloria, like it definitely opened my eyes. And when we got started that first month, I was like, wow, like this is so crazy just to be able to really be taking on this as not just a creator but a business owner. and that's kind of a transition I can talk about later. But that's kind of been like my journey so far as, with UGC and content creation, taking it full time.
And I'm curious, like about like okay, so you came from college, and you said college was like that job after college was draining you. Is that right?
Yeah, yeah.
And I feel like a lot of our viewers kind of are going through something similar, where they're going through college, and they're realizing, hey, this is like not it for me, right? So, what advice do you have for those beginners that are going through college and they want to transition, or going through college or at a marketing job that doesn't fit them, and they want to transition to UGC? What advice would you give them?
Yeah. Honestly, the advice I would give is just to like go for it. And that sounds so like cliche, like, oh, like chase after your dreams. But honestly, if you think about like in technicality, the amount of time that we have, you can, of course, spend doing something that you absolutely like hate, absolutely dread, or you can invest that time into doing something that you actually love and that's like passionate about. And of course, like with UGC, if you even like it and want to explore that, I definitely implore you to take that leap of faith, because it really is a leap of faith. It's totally different going from doing a traditional job or having the mindset of going to a traditional job, marketing, whatever, what have you, to then becoming like a whole entrepreneur by yourself and running a business by yourself, and navigating the pathway of UGC. Because also in that same breath, it's like UGC, we talk about the more content creation side, right? But we never talk about the business side, and that's like a whole different switch that you have to understand when you even think about going full time. So I think it's learning more about who you are as a person, and really like coming into that mindset for yourself of whether or not you can really be able to take on that responsibility. Because at the end of the day, a lot of the decisions that you'll make as a full-time business owner is going to be tough sometimes, and sometimes you won't want to do it, and sometimes you'll be in the positions where you just like you're overwhelmed and stuff and anxious. But I think that's kind of the journey and beauty of becoming a UGC creator full time. It's like you are fully invested in yourself 110%, and if you're not giving 110%, then it's just like it's not worth it. So it really is like you put your full foot in or your full foot out in that case.
Yeah, and that's a wonderful like viewpoint on this, because I know like a lot of creators do struggle with that. Hey, like the should I do UGC full time or marketing job, or like do part time, or is this even possible, right? So it's really inspiring that you turned it from something that was part time into full time. So my question to you is like, just to get this straight, like okay, you found out about UGC. My thought is, were you one of those people that found out about it just like scrolling on TikTok and Instagram, or did you find out about it through just like friends or like kind of word of mouth?
Yeah, great question. So this kind of like goes back to my college experience and doing UGC during my college experience. So before even actually, let's back it up to content creation in the first place, right? Because I know for me, like even being introduced what was content creation and how to make videos, that was something that I had to learn. And I think when I was in college, I applied to a bunch of college ambassador programs. So through those ambassador programs, I was able to like kind of get like a more like overall view, surface level view of what marketing was, what social media management was, what content creation was. And that was really fun for me. Like that was something that I was always like really just encouraged to and drawn to while I was, doing computer science. Because also I was doing a completely different major at the time, and not, marketing. I was doing computer science, IT, that's that sort of stuff. So doing these ambassador programs was really like a creative outlet for me to really understand and learn for myself like what content creation was and how that can be like an outlet for me creatively and how it could be really fun. So then I just started posting videos for fun, and brands just started to kind of like contact me saying like, hey, like what's your range? Like, do you usually see, like we would be so interested in working with you. And of course, being my dumb college self, obviously I didn't, treat it as like something as serious, right? So like I would have like, maybe an email pop up, I'll reply to it, and then, we'll totally forget about it later on. So, in the scheme of things, not treating it as seriously until after I kind of, learned and grown and was about to, graduate college. So that was kind of like my intro into understanding UGC, was through those ambassadorships. And then also the people that I met through those ambassadorships, they also did UGC or influencing or that sort of thing. And I was really able to like learn from them, and kind of gather like tidbits here and there.
Okay. So it started with college ambassadorships. I guess with college ambassadorships and outside of college ambassadorships, when you started to get like offers for normal UGC, right?
Yeah.
What were your first attempts like?
Yeah, they were I always like think about it, and like I know for me, I always like think of like the first video, right? And it's always like cringy when you're like looking at back, because it's just like, wow, now that you're, coming forth who you are and stuff, it's just like so crazy. But I think for the like initial attempts, it was definitely mind-boggling for sure. I had to do a lot of research on my own of like the different terminology, when you're talking to brands and so forth. Like, it's a definitely different communication style than you were to talking to like a regular person, right, through emails. So that was something that I had to kind of like learn and stuff. And also, like, ChatGPT wasn't a thing really, not at that full scale. So it was really me like, researching and, Googling, okay, what does like perpetually mean, or what does like paid usage mean, what's the difference between whitelisting and ad use, like that sort of thing. So once I understood the terminology of it, I was able to kind of get the gist of like responding to emails, also, setting the type of content that they were looking for. Because also, it's really also what was really crazy to me as well was like understanding the difference when making like ads to like aesthetic videos. Like, I was really trying to like understand. So the first few attempts went pretty smoothly for the most part. I definitely was someone that would need a lot of revisions, because it was always just like, oh, I don't want to do this edit. Like, why are you asking me to do this edit? So kind of like a hard head in that, so to speak. But I think like after repetition and like actually understanding what brands really wanted in their content, then I was able to be like, okay, like I know what you're looking for. Here's the video, and they're like, oh, we love it. But that was after like a whole bunch of repetitions through other initial brands that I had to work with, and understanding kind of like, that video format that they wanted, the creative style, that sort of thing.
So it sounds like it was kind of like complicated, especially around the fact that there's a difference between aesthetic content and UGC ads, right?
Yeah, yeah, for sure,
Yeah.
for sure.
So what was like your strat like after you got those like ambassador collabs, and then you started taking UGC a little bit more seriously after you understood like what was possible, right? How are you approaching brands then when you took it a little bit more seriously?
Yeah, so I think I was kind of like also introduced with like formulating as a business at that time when I was becoming more serious. I of course did a lot of research, but I was also introduced to a lot of different mentors. And so like through these mentors, I wouldn't say I had like a bad experience with them, but I think it was more something what they taught wasn't necessarily like understanding systems and how to create UGC and so forth. It was more like trying to get to the surface level of like what UGC is, how to pitch, kind of like when you see those videos, those take 15 30-second clips, like, oh, I make 10K per month and you can too, just by using this really super general template of email. So it was stuff like that. So I really I really wanted to like kind of come out of that like, oh, super like sugar type of content where it's just like, oh, like it feels good now, and when I'm listening to it, it like makes sense, but then when I'm putting it in the practice, it doesn't, and it's not like in-depth knowledge that I needed. So it was definitely a lot of YouTube videos, asking, questions here and there sporadically, not kind of having all the information come from one place, one person. And that definitely kind of, I would say, like the amount of, yeah, delayed the amount of projects I would get. Cause I think from, listening to so many different ears, you put into practice so many different like things all at once. And it was really like a trial and error for me when I was really trying to take it seriously of like, okay, I know I can make content, but like the systems that I have is all over the place and I don't know where to start. So that was kind of like that in that point. And I think that was kind of like a rut for me regarding like just the business and realizing too, like, okay, I know that I'm seeing everyone else do it, but why is it not clicking for me? So I think that was something that took me a little while, and then up until I met you, and then it kind of was like a whole different experience. But that was kind of
100%.
like that leeway that made me be like, okay, I think I can do UGC, but maybe like since this isn't working out, maybe let me try the traditional route. And that's when I kind of that's when I kind of like shifted into like having those full-time jobs and getting that back end experience, which again I don't regret at all, because now that I'm looking back, I use those experiences and that knowledge into play with my UGC business. But that was just kind of like the headspace I was in at the time.
How long before you realized it wasn't as easy as those TikTok influencers made it seem?
Like months, definitely a couple of months. I think in practice, when you're listening to all of those people and information, and it's like, okay, like you can do it, but then when you have accountability in the back of your mind saying like, okay, do it, and then I'm not doing it in the practice, it's like, oh shoot, like
Yeah.
then there's a problem. So of course, like I wasn't in that vulnerable space where it was like, okay, it was do or die, like I need, UGC to work. But it was just more of like me just trying it out, like testing the waters just to see if I was even capable of doing something like, taking content creation full time, what have you. And I think it was just having too much information all at once, and it was really overwhelming at times. Um, that kind of led that spearway into, going traditional job and stuff.
What kind of kept you going through those tough months of, your initial, UGC journey when everything was like, when you're in that rut?
Yeah, I think for me, like I love to journal my thoughts and stuff. I think it's for me, like I think externally taking into account like health and mental health, especially when whatever I feel in those ruts or creative like blockage, I think it was really important for me to like take a step back at certain times and be like, okay, it's not you, but it might be something that you're doing, and really take into account like, okay, like let me try something different. And that was me. Like if something wasn't working, I would always try something different and like adapt quickly. But I think the problem was is that I wasn't doing like a practice or a system all the way throughout, and it would just cause like maybe like a missed email or like a missed deadline like here and there. Like it just wasn't consistent overall when running my UGC business. So that was just kind of like my headspace whenever I came through a rut of just like having that mental space, having that mental time to really come back to myself and like talk myself out of it, almost to speak, and be like, okay, it's not you, but we have to change something in order for this to work.
Yeah, for sure. And it sounds like super frustrating being in like a rut like that for, a couple months or a few months with so much information. So my question to you is like, what was the hardest part about that time?
Yeah, I think the hardest part was seeing like all of my peers, kind of like succeeding in a way that I wasn't. I think comparison is such a thief to joy. And I say that all the time because I used to have such a problem comparing myself to others, especially being like a very huge perfectionist. And this goes with like even with school and, having like my job in school. and so forth. So I think it was really hard for me to like compare to other people and be like, oh, I'm not where I'm supposed to be, or just like even comparing like the journeys with other people and knowing that like I'm not at the place with the amount of time that I put into this particular thing. So I think that was kind of like the hardest for me to come to terms to.
What finally made you realize, Maya, like you needed to change your approach?
Yeah. I think for me it definitely took longer, kind of like shifting now into like what my headspace was when I had my full-time job. Obviously, like there was a lot of moments where I would do a particular task or even like, you know, email a brand and so to speak, because in influencer marketing you're in the back end, you're emailing brands, you're negotiating, you know, for like rates and stuff, and like also at some points I would either even like edit the content. So I was doing everything, like, you know, that space where you're like negotiating and you're throwing these big numbers like 5K for a video, 10K for a video, and you're really handling the campaigns of these like influencer campaigns and so forth. It was just like, wow, I want to be at this place. And I think it was just like a hard pill to swallow when I knew in my heart before I had the job, like, oh, I want to be a content creator full time. And now being like, oh, I'm actually like working with these influencers, but you know, being on a paid salary and not being the creator that's getting the 5K for a video, for a UGC video, right? So it really put things in perspective for me. And that's when I was like in the initial like stages of like, you know, thinking that I was going to quit my job, I realized too that like UGC for me was something that I was really good at, a skill that I was super great at. And that was like the turning point of me realizing that I could do this full time, but I just need to do something different. And I wasn't going to be all over the place. I was going to be, you know, with one mentor or one program. I was going to do this correctly. And I, you know, put that in my brain and already came into conclusion with that, so that, you know, when I was going to be here, I was able to take accountability more because I already put that decision in my brain. It's a decision that I was going to make to lead me to the point where I'm at now. So
100%. Yeah. And that's very inspiring. Like, you know, that realization of like, yo, like this is not like working and I need to find something that does work, right? And every business owner kind of goes through that where it's like, you know, you start off and sometimes you have to change the lane a couple times to get to the destination that you want to get to, right?
yeah, and be pushed a little bit.
Yeah, for sure. So I guess what changed? Like, how did you find out about like the different approach?
Yeah, so I got that kind of like leads to like meeting you and finding you on Reddit. So I think like obviously I was doing research of like other like programs, especially like on Twitter, like okay, what's like the best, you know, practice into becoming full-time with UGC. And I kind of just went through like the loophole of like, okay, what are my options? Who are, you know, the industry leaders of this space and like where I can start. And then obviously I found you on Reddit and I kind of read like I totally forgot what the Reddit post was about, but it was definitely something that was different than comparison to what everyone else was saying. So I was like, oh shoot, like she actually knows what she's talking about. And so then I kind of joined like the UGC program, UGC World, and then we kind of chatted about like my experience up to that point. And that was like through that conversation I was like, okay, like I was meant to be here in this conversation, like it was just not like out of coincidence because I've been speaking about it so much. So I think it was, you know, I think God was like really, you know, pulling it together and just like allowing it to happen the way it was supposed to, because obviously me saying it and speaking it, it was like, okay, dang, like this is the opportunity where I can really put full faith in myself to really like take this over the moon and really do what I love. So I think after meeting you and like getting, you know, into the program, I that was like the same week I quit my job, which was so crazy. It was such a crazy week for me. Yeah. And
Why did you quit your job that week?
I don't know. I just had a hunch, so to speak. I had a conviction to quit my job. It wasn't any, yeah, it wasn't anything bad. It was really like a random Friday. that I just had the, conviction to. And I think it was after like our conversation, I was like, okay, I need to do this like full time. Like I need to put all of my eggs in this basket because I know for myself, like I can't like multitask serious things like this and really put my all and see like the fruits of the labor come to fruition because I'm like balancing so much. So yeah, that was kind of like it for me, that turning point.
Wow. So since we've been talking and since that turning point, like what was the first thing that you learned that made you go like, "Oh my gosh, I've been doing this all wrong."
Yeah, so I think for me, it was definitely like understanding like the use of systems and
Mm,
automation, so to speak. I think for me, like I always heard like the term automation, and I'm like, oh, okay, like AI and like so forth, but I never realized and understood that I could apply it to my own business. So when we were
wow.
talking about like emailing systems and like how to like reach out to brands, 500 brands per day, like that was completely like I never even like thought I could reach out to that much. I was like, wait, what, you can? So like that was definitely like a big like learning curve for me, was like understanding systems and then automation and how to apply it to my business, so I'm not running around pitching for like hours and hours on end. Because before, when I came, like I was pitching a brand. I was either finding the brand, I would pitch to them, and that would maybe take like 15-20 minutes of my time of my day. So imagining doing like 20 brands, it was like so much. And that was kind of like the bulk of the business. So when I came to the program and you were like, no, like you can automate this, it was just like, whoa, like that's so crazy. And so like that definitely took me into perspective of like how I could simplify tasks for my business, like administrative tasks that I could then focus on doing the content creation and doing like the negotiations and stuff like that. So yeah, I would say that would be the one biggest thing.
100%. And that's a beautiful transformation, understanding, yo, like I don't have to do all of this manually and spend hours like pitching. I can automate it, right? And that makes total sense. So, like, how did you start applying this new way of thinking?
Oh, sorry, say that again.
How did you start applying this like new way of thinking after you understood this?
Yeah. So I think like obviously after I went through like the programs course and kind of like doing those check-ins with you regarding like the next steps and stuff, I was really like, okay, like it's time to put it into action. So I did my research through different like platforms like by Lead Fox initially, and then of course like using Limlist. And that was definitely something that I had to get used to as far as like the software and like understanding the platform as a whole. So it took me a little bit, but it didn't take me that long because I didn't want to like elongate the process to getting there. And like, because of course, like in the process, I knew I was going to make a mistake, but that's just kind of the journey, you just have to like put your, full body in the pool sometimes and then kind of just work your way to warming it up. So that was literally me like setting up my emailing systems and getting it rolling with like starting my first campaign. So obviously I think when I started my first campaign, obviously it wasn't like a huge like knock in the park. I definitely had to do a little tweaking with like my emails and stuff, and also like of course understand like the lingo communication with like cold emailing, because that's also something different, understanding like the psychology when it comes to emailing a brand. And that's something that would maybe be the second biggest thing that I've learned in the program from you, is just like the psychology of like understanding how a brand would read your email and also how they would respond, and also how you should like kind of reply in the most like authentic self, and not be super like professional and robot, but like chill, hey, like this is what I offer, take or leave it. So yeah.
So, with the system, it sounds like you found a lot of success with the systems. And of course, there's more than one system. So, I'd like to ask the question of like, okay, we have the email system. What other systems did you start implementing into your business after we met?
Yeah. So then after, we met, I kind of also understood that I had to like track what I was doing, of course, like track my collaborations, track, how much I was making, because really running it on paper was really like, okay, like a visual snapshot of what I was doing, how I was running my business. So, I tried a couple of things. At first I tried like Notion and stuff. For me personally, I'm not like the biggest Notion user. So that was something that I was like, oh shoot, I don't think I'm gonna be updating this. But I actually found a platform I use currently now called Breakaway, which has been like super useful as far as like me tracking, like, okay, this collaboration is in the contract stage, and the me filming, shooting, what's due. It gives me like reminders of like what's due, the deliverables I have, and also like when I need to invoice people. So it's been such a good tracker for me to be like, okay, this is like everything that I have here, and I can, update continuously. I can add my contracts for each collaboration. Like it's so like visual for me. So that has been super helpful with like my process and how I'm able to like visually, picture the different, projects and clients that I'm putting on, because I update it like so much. So that has been like a huge system that has been helping me. And also, I would even say like in Gmail as well. I wouldn't say it's a system, but for me, when I email clients and stuff, especially newer people, I'll use like these labels being like, okay, this is like in negotiation stage. I'm interested. I'm not interested. That also helped me visually be like, okay, this is where the conversation is going, and I need to like label it as so. And even when like a current project with something, I'll be like, okay, I'm currently filming, currently in progress. And then once it's completed, I'll put it in the completed label. And then when a quarter reaches back out, I'll be like, hey, love working with you, would love to do it again. And then, keep it as so. But yeah, those has been the systems that have been helping me so far.
So systems are very, very important for a UGC creator in their business, obviously, like you're saying. And then walk us through, you were sending like 20 pitches before we met. And then what did that volume change look like? You're sending maybe hundreds, right? It's hundreds of pitches afterwards. Like, how is that transition? And what did that kind of look like when it comes to, the type of brands that you're reaching out to in the first place and the decision makers, right? And like, how was kind of that transition from sending 20 pitches to like 100 pitches a day?
Yeah, it was such a big transition going from 20 pitches to like 100, 200 per day. Obviously, you can only imagine the amount of responses. I think initially, though, like when I did my system in the first place, my emailing, I didn't get as many responses, but that's kind of the thing. You have to test things, you have to, test and trial so much to get to that point where you're like, ooh, this email is like good. Like I'm getting a lot of positive responses from this email. So that was me for like, I swear to you, a month, just testing and iterating different types of emails, messaging, because of course I wanted to sound like me as well. But I did learn a lot of like coming and having that approach of being like, okay, I'm not only a creator, but I'm also a strategist. So let me come across as like a balance of being, authentic, while also, sharing what I do, my services, and that point. And so then when I did hit my first like template that was really good, I got so many responses. It was like a ripple effect. It was like, okay, like an email here, and then just started to be so many all at once. So I was like, wow, like all of these positive responses, but now I'm just like, okay, like how should I respond to all of these now? So yeah, that has been like such a interesting thing to like learn of like, okay, you have so many emails coming out, so now you're going to get so many replies. And of course, it makes sense. But I think in the high side, when you're seeing it visually, it's like, whoa, like this is crazy. It's like a ripple effect. So that has been like so incredible to even like come to terms with, of like actually getting responses, getting people that are asking for my rates and wanting to work with me from my work. So
What impact directly has that had on the growth of your business?
so much, so much. I think from like, of course, in out talking about like my outbound system, I think it's literally grown my clientele tremendously. I've gathered so many new clients just from my emailing list. And now from my emailing list, people my clients would either recommend me to their other peers or other colleagues from different brands, or they'll, of course, like go from my like social pages where I'm building also that personal brand on the back end, and me now receiving a lot of more inbounds as well. So it's just been like such a cool I feel like it's just such a cool like way to, like, when you're seeing it in real time, it's like, wow, this is just because of like an email or because of a partnership that went so well, and now it's just like boom boom boom. And I would say too, like a lot of the new clientele have now become regular returners, because after that first initial interaction and me, making that video for them, it's like, oh my gosh, that video has performed so well for us, like, can you make another one this month? And it's just like month by month. So that's the beauty of it, and I think it's working really good so far.
That's beautiful. And how much time, like, do you feel the systems save you each week compared to when you're trying this all on your own?
Literally hours. Yeah, hours, because I do like reflect on when I was just like pitching manually. It's so crazy how much time you save. Like, it's insane how much time you save.
Wow. Okay. So do you feel like you could have hit the point that you are now without having these systems and like help getting these systems up?
No. I think without this is, I think, well, for one thing, I think it's a numbers game at the end of the day. When before I had the systems, I was like, oh, I was doing a lot of like internal thinking and stuff, and overthinking, so to speak, of like, oh, like, what if I pitch this brand and this brand says no, right? Like, I think it was a lot of like internal battles with just coming into terms that I have to do this action, but like me not handling rejection well, like you're gonna receive like no's and stuff, or maybe like, like whatever is. But after I overcome that, so after I overcame that mental battle, it then was like, okay, now it's just a number game, baby. Like, we need to be inputting a lot, we need to be putting a lot more emails out there, so that in return there's a lot more replies. So um I think it was like, yeah, it is. But I know that like a lot of people, I mean, your biggest enemy is yourself, right? So a lot of people will put themselves like in the front and, really like out question every action that they make and be like, oh, if I send this message, like what they say, or oh, my email has to be perfect and da da da. It's more like, okay, after you come out of that, it's like you just have to do it. You just have to put your feet in the mud a little bit, and if it fails, if they say no, then you keep pushing. If they say yes, then amazing, right? So that was kind of like the mindset. It's not just the systems, but it's your mental system as well. You have to show up for yourself in order for the systems to work, first and foremost. And that's something that I had to like come in terms with in order to see the fruits of my labor, because I just kept iterating quickly as I can and just like testing. And once I got that point, I was like, okay, like, let's put even more out, So
Yeah, for sure. And that's a beautiful mindset of like, yo, if like we have to keep iterating. That's business in general.
in general, yeah, always have to adapt and change.
Exactly. So I guess what was your highest month since we've met, right? Compared to when we met and now, what was your highest month in income from your UGC business?
Okay, yeah. So you're asking before and after, right? Yeah. So I think before I started, I would honestly, the revenue would be really like inconsistent, so to speak. Yeah. And I think with like my highest, it would maybe be like 3K. And that was really me like trying, doing the manual pitching, working harder than smarter, all of that. So coming into the program and like putting in like months of just iterating and building my systems up, building my business, my clientele, I've recently reached my first 10K month. So it's just like really crazy to like be from, working so hard for that 3K to being like seamless to that 10K just by using, systems and practices and different terminology in the way that I show up for myself and the way that my rates are. I negotiate all of that stuff, but it's just so crazy. It's literally like so crazy. But also that was something that I spoke into existence too, especially on our call. That was like that first initial stage of like, okay, what's your goals for the next 3 months, right? And I was like, I want to make 10K, and I know that's crazy, but I think I can do it. And now going into like in September and hitting it is like crazy.
That's
So
so good. That's
it's
so
so
good.
possible.
Yeah, because we met like how many months ago did we meet? Like maybe three?
We met in like the end of April, beginning May.
May, June, July. Okay, so maybe a few months ago, 3, 5 months ago, something like that. And your transformation from like my perspective, I mean, I've been seeing you just grow and iterate, and you're like a warrior here. So it's so inspiring, even as a coach, to see that you've crushed it and you've gone through all of these roadblocks. That's insane. So, with that being said, like my question to you is like, what do you think separates people who get stuck at that gifted collab loop, right? And get stuck at the inconsistent collabs versus people like you who scale to 10K?
Yeah, for sure. Well, first and foremost, I think it really is a mindset thing. Like it really is, you have to have a mindset shift and to even get to a point where you're like fully coming into terms that you are working not for free, especially if you were doing gifted collabs. Because I think too was like we get into I think we get into the thinking process like, oh, a brand loves me, but they want like a product to be sent to me, and it's like, oh, if I really impress a brand, then they'll pay me after. That's not how it works, right? It's literally a brand. Their first interaction with you will dictate whether or not you're gonna be treated as a paid creator or just a freelance PR, person that they send PR to. So that was something that I had to come to terms with. I'm like, okay. And especially having experience with like the influencer marketing side, kind of where I've shared previously. I when I get an email from a creator and they're like, oh, like I love the brand, I would love free stuff, then I'm just like, okay, we don't have to pay them. And that like is sick to hear, but I mean that's just the reality of it. And because a brand's not gonna want to pay you, right? Unless you're putting that boundary and being like, no, I am going to be paid for my time. I'm going to be paid for my videos, usage, and so forth. So it's really like coming out of that mindset that you're not just a creator, but you're also running a business. And you can't make money if you're doing free labor. So that was just that's just something that's first off. But and then of course, like after you have that mindset being like, okay, I'm gonna be a business. I'm gonna actually run it as a business. And it's like, okay, you need your systems. You need to like put into place the organization of it all and also how you're going to be able to of course like track like you're running a business, having your systems, having your automation in place. What are the tasks that you can do automation wise that you can then free up and use, in a different area, right? So you're thinking now like, oh, like I need this, I need that. And then once you have your systems in place, then it's like, okay, how can you double down on what's working, right? Once you test it, once you iterated, what's working, scale it. So that's really what I've been doing like the past like 3 months. It's not rocket science. I mean, obviously it's crazy and it takes a lot of faith in yourself as well, but it really is like, okay, coming into the mindset that you're running a business and really putting into place the systems, the scaling, and then of course like leaning on your peers, your mentors to really get you to, even further to helping you achieve that. So
Wow, that's beautiful. And that's honestly like, I mean, it's business at the end of the day. We have to think like a business owner and not a creator, because that creator mindset, right, will keep us stuck at that inconsistent mark. But turning it into a business, that's where we get the real money, right?
yep, for sure.
So, looking back, what would have happened, Maya, if you hadn't even plugged in any systems in your business?
I would definitely still be in the inconsistent range for sure. I think I would have like a lot of like in and out months, like, kind of like inconsistent communication, inconsistent like emailing. I feel like I would be so overwhelmed and just anxious of, everything, trying to run every single bit, small piece by myself. So I feel like it would be a train wreck if I would say it shortly. But obviously, like, I think any person that is really wanting to do this, really trying to succeed, and not just UGC, but content creation, right? It's like, okay, like take a step back and like, let's take an overall like view of what everything's looking like and see where you can, improve and like actually put everything in place. So,
So, about like positioning, now. Okay, you have the systems, you're positioning yourself differently over email, like you said. How are you positioning yourself now? I remember back then, like you were complete, like in these, saturated niches and things were inconsistent. And how do you separate yourself now when it comes to untapped opportunities that you're taking advantage of?
Yeah, for sure. I think when it came to like kind of, I wouldn't say niche down to like my UGC business because honestly, my portfolio, I love to showcase like my range of creativity, especially in niches. I can do any niche, but of course, when I am pitching to brands, I ensure that I at least have, 4 to 5 brands in each niche that I'm like really able to, do well in the video and really showcase my abilities so that when I am pitching to these brands, I'm like, hey, I worked in so and so. Here's my credibility. Here's how it, performed. So then when I'm working with a new client, it's like, oh, like we see all the work you did. Like, let's work together. So I think like even with saturated niches, like I love doing skincare and beauty and that sort of speak. I kind of have like a creative flair when it comes to my editing style and the way that I come across visually on camera and ads and stuff. And I I actually had a brand recently tell me like, oh my gosh, it's just your smile, your charisma, right? That the video is like performing so well, we're getting so many conversions. So then I hear that feedback and I'm like, oh, I gotta smile more. So then it's just kind of like getting the I guess like leaning into your strong points, especially, coming across as someone that would like really perform well in like saturated niches and like really putting yourself, I guess, unique in comparison to everyone else. It's really just finding like how you can find your strongest point within yourself, whether it's like visually, if it's your editing style, like finding what is working, especially what brands are really highlighting and, feedback and stuff. So that's kind of how like I, kind of rock to my own beat and that so to speak. And I think that's why I honestly, my most performing, I think the most amount of like, I guess emailing communication I get on is like my beauty skincare videos, and a lot of like skincare videos just love like looking at my videos and stuff. So yeah, I mean it's not impossible to be in skincare and beauty because it's saturated, but I think it's just like you just have to position yourself as someone different in comparison to
Yeah, you have to
anyone
separate
else.
yourself from the crowd, right? And there has to be something that separates you from the crowd.
Yeah, something that's like intriguing, interesting, that so to speak.
So, how has it helped to like negotiate with these brand owners? We're talking about emails and going back and forth and talking with brands. Like, I feel like most creators can't even negotiate because they're scared of like speaking with brands in the first place.
Yeah, yeah, that was definitely me. So I've been there. And I think like negotiation is such a scary thing. It's such a scary thing. And actually, I didn't learn really the skill set of negotiation until when I got my job in influencer marketing. That's when I really learned the basis of negotiation and kind of like the art set. Because of course, like it's different when a brand is negotiating with a creator being like, oh, our budget's here or whatever. So I was really able to understand negotiation from the brand side. And so when I came into the creator side, I was like, oh, I know what you're doing, brand, but not, I'm not going to fall for it. Right. So you just have to kind of like, of course, be confident in knowing like your worth, right, of what you're going to be paid for and your rates and that sort of speak. But then it's kind of like you have to also understand the psychology of negotiations and what you're going to come to the terms with as far as like that rate for a certain project and stuff. And I think for me too, I'm coming to the point where I really like value just like long term relationships, like professional relationship with these brands that I'm working with. So, a lot of the times from the first interaction, it's like, okay, like here's my rate. Usually they'll be like, oh, our budget's this, like we don't really have that much budget. I'm like, okay, cool. If you're able to reach me here, then we can like see how this project goes as a tester or whatever, just to build that clientele and that relationship going. Because I think that's way valuable long term than just being like, oh, never mind, like I don't want to work with you. So I think it's like you have to understand what you're willing to accept, and once you have that boundary in place for yourself, then you're able to negotiate smoother. And also, I love using ChatGPT. So if I have an email that's like, okay, polish this up for me, then I'll like come back and spit something that's like really fabulous for me to send. So yeah.
Awesome. So, you also mentioned that you have those long-term relationships now and you focus on building those. So what systems and processes directly impacted, those long-term relationships paying you long-term?
Yeah, for sure. I think obviously it starts with like that first interaction, as I shared before, having like that email system that like sends an email that's not only personalized but actually feels like, I'm coming to you as a human at the end of the day, because there's so many brands that get thousands and thousands of creator emails that are like, hi, I'm so and so and I want to make content for you, pay me, you know what I mean? So I wanted to kind of come from a place that's like, okay, I know that you're struggling in something, listing those pain points that maybe a brand is experiencing and being like, hey, I know that you're experiencing this, I do this, so let me help you. So it's coming from is now coming from a place where I'm and trying to help a brand, right? Not coming instead of coming from a place of money, because of course, if you're doing anything just for the paycheck, that it's never going to work. I think you have to be in a place where you are wanting to help or passionately be like someone of impact for, working with the brand and really contributing to what they have going on, contributing to their campaign, contributing to their ads, contributing to conversions, all of that. So it's now coming from a place where I'm actively trying to help a brand in whatever, with like low engagement or conversions or, you know, all that, so to speak. So
And what got you to kind of to that point where you are thinking like this? You're thinking more strategically around these collabs and around like, hey, all of these like, business terms that, you might have not known before or the average creator doesn't know.
no, yeah. I think what definitely helped with like, going through the course and the UGC program, that's definitely helped me a lot. Just like how the doors opened to like the terminology and like, kind of like the more foundational type of stuff. And then of course, like as I furthered my like, my experience in my business and so forth and continue running my business and seeing what was working and what was not, I did, of course, like more research and stuff to allow me to get to that point that I was strategically thinking. And it takes time, at the end of the day, everything takes time. It's not going to be something that you snap your fingers and then you have clarity on so many things. Like, no, it really took a lot of time for me, but I had to really nurture that time and really like not take the quick way out into, getting what I want, right? Like a lot of, I feel like there's so many people that do that. They try to take the easy way out instead of like going through the hard process, like the pruning process to get to that place. So that was what my experience was with that.
How did it feel? I guess my question to you now is like, what was your biggest milestone in the UGC in your UGC career? And it, I guess, like your biggest win in your UGC career.
Yeah. Well, I think obviously like that milestone of hitting 10K, like that has honestly just been so crazy to even like pictualize. But I will say like a huge like win was when I had like a video that I did for a brand, and they basically came back with this huge number for the usage of the video. Because keep in mind, when I made this video, it was maybe less than a year ago, and I was just like, okay, like I'm gonna make this video for you guys because this also brand was such a big brand. And so when it came back earlier in like last month saying what they would pay for perpetually usage was, I was like, oh my gosh. But then I was like, maybe I can negotiate a little bit more. So we went a little bit back and forth and we settled on, a number that I was just like, holy cow, like that's so crazy thinking about. So yeah, I mean, it was 6K. It was 6K. Yeah, a big fat 6K. So crazy, so crazy. Because also I like knew in hindsight because this brand is like a multi-million-dollar brand. So I mean, I knew they had usage, budget for like a video like this. But the video when they were running it for the first time when I made it, it was just doing crazy numbers and conversions. So, of course, as a business, it's like, okay, if this video is doing really good, let's just buy the usage up in front so you're not, dealing with like, legality stuff. So it made sense. It was just like so crazy for me to even like get to that point of having a video do that well, you know? And I think that's like a accomplishment for me. It's not like the number of what they paid for the usage, was just like me knowing that the video performed so well that they were willing to pay for a lifetime of usage on it. So yeah, it was just like really, really cool to just like come to terms with.
And then you hopped on a brand call, it sounds like, with this brand to negotiate. Is that right?
No, so this negotiation was through email because initially the number, yeah, so initially the number was already high, but I just wanted to go higher. So it's like, hey, like, thank you so much. Like, this is crazy. However, I, of course, shared like what, the usage would mean for me. And especially as I knew that it was doing a lot of numbers for their business. So I was like, hey, like, this is a big number, but it's an investment. And then we kind of reached to a number that they negotiated back with their final offer that was a little lower, but I was fine with it. So I was like, okay, perfect. So yeah, because also like, of course, this brand, there's so many moving parts and everyone's so busy. So even when I asked to be on a brand call, it was like, oh, like we just don't have the time right now, but we would love to negotiate to see if we can reach this final offer. So yeah, we did it through email, but yeah, it was still like such a crazy experience for sure.
100%. And most creators actually dream of like hitting 6K from a brand, a single brand, right? And they dream of hitting 10K even with their UGC business like you have. So how has UGC completely like changed your life or your lifestyle essentially?
Yeah, for sure. I think it's definitely changed my lifestyle for the better. Knowing that I'm able to do something that I love, making content, making videos, and actually making way more than my traditional job would have paid me. Like, it's amazing. And I'm not like, and the best thing about it is like, I'm not sitting and on a desk like 9 to 5, right? Like, I can literally work from anywhere, and of course, like run the business the way that I want to. So I think that's really the beauty of it. It's of course like yes, like the money involved is like amazing, but the way that I'm living my life now and I'm not like, in this like mind battle with like my manager or whatever, like if in a traditional job would say. So I think it's just a beauty. It's like working for myself and knowing that I'm doing something that I love at the end of the day. So
Yeah, that's wonderful. And how does it feel to make like money online with UGC? Because I feel like it's a big gap for people transitioning into like online business and you're able to be profitable with this.
yeah, I think it's like so surreal because I think if I were to reflect and kind of like go back to what I was thinking maybe like 3 years ago when I first started, I would have been like, that's insane. Like you said, insane right now. So it's like now coming into full fruition, like full circle to now making money with UGC is like, wow, like it's just so crazy to even like think about you can making money using like videos and stuff and content creation. But I think now that we're in this day and age where the creator economy is only growing, so I honestly feel like if it's like to the viewer, if you're really trying to use UGC full time, it's like there's no better chance than right now because you have nothing to lose. You literally have nothing to lose. Like an email can change your life, honestly. So
And then has this opened up like new opportunities for traveling or experiences you never thought possible?
yeah, for sure. I think like it's just so fun to even, explore different niches. Like, especially for me, I kind of recently dabbled in like travel UGC. And then I think that's like my favorite niche so far because working with hotels, working with like these different like companies, it's just so fun. And just being like able to just have a free stay and making content is like amazing. It's really, really fun. So I think it's just like you have to like of course get out of that headspace of like, oh, what did they say no, because of course it's all a numbers game. So whenever I send like a pitch to hotels, it won't just be one, it'll be like 50, and then one hotel will say yes to me. So it's like having that mindset, and of course just realizing that like that email can change everything. You just have to send it. So
What's different about your day-to-day life now compared to when you're like struggling?
yeah, I mean, I think this is a little personal for me, but I feel like I'm so present in life. And I think when I was working like my full-time job, like it would always be like I would kind of like act like a robot, like come do my work, be in like mental battles with myself, and like, if all the tasks and responsibilities I would do, like I would just always be on consistent work overload. And honestly, it was really stressful. And now, like, in the lifestyle that I have, I'm able to, go on a walk. I'm able to, like enjoy like a meal with my fiance. I'm able to be able to spend time with my cats. You know what I mean? Like it's like more time that I'm able to invest for myself, and that allows me to be happier because in present with life. And I think like having a 9 to 5, like, it's great for some people, but for a lot of people it's like honestly like a mind-boggling, like underwhelming experience where you're, forced to kind of like not be living to your fullest. So yeah, I think with the lifestyle that I have running my UGC business, I think with any running a business in general is like great, but I think with UGC it's just such a fun way for me to really be in present to like what I'm doing, and of course like having and being passionate about it. So
100%. And is there anything we missed? Like, I mean, we talked about the systems, we talked about the pitching, negotiation, all of the strategies. Is there anything we missed that really, really helped you, even mindset, that helped you get to where you are now over the past, like, 3 to 5 months?
no, I mean, I feel like we touched like majority of it, but I guess like to tie it like all together, I think it really like takes a place of faith, right? Like anything that you're really trying to do full on, especially like taking a leap of faith into UGC, it all comes with you. It all comes with how you're going to take accountability for yourself, how you're going to make decisions, how you're going to, like get out of, certain ways, because of course it's not like picture perfect all the time, like there's going to be bad days where you're just like, oh my gosh, like that brand just, did not like me or whatever. Like you think, a lot of things, but I feel like that's kind of the beauty of it. It's like the journey, and you will have your highs and your lows, but the best thing about it is that you're investing in yourself, and everything goes back to yourself the way that, you essentially like show up, right? Like you show up into everything. So I think that's like the main thing that I would say about everything regarding UGC is like it starts with you. It really starts with you. And everything else will fall into place once you decide and make the decision, not a choice, not a choice, a decision that you're going to succeed in your UGC business and actually make it work. So
For sure. And what's next for you, Maya? Like, where do you see this going in the future?
well, I'm glad you asked, Gloria, because I am now trying to reach 20K. And obviously, that's going to be an experience, but I'm ready to like hit that milestone as well. Obviously, it's like once I hit a goal, it's like, okay, how can I reach even further? So I love being a goal setter and also overachiever. So I think that's something that I'm ready to accomplish. And when I do, I'll come back to here.
Yeah, for sure. And kind of unrelated, but it comes to mind, like, how do you see like the UGC industry evolving since you have so much experience with UGC now and you hit 10K and you're working with many brands? Like, how do you see the UGC industry evolving over time, especially around AI?
Yeah, that's a great question. I know there's like a lot of conversation regarding like UGC and AI, especially since now AI can make videos and stuff, and especially like, which is crazy. However, I will say that like of course a brand can make like a, AI UGC video or whatever. I think the beauty of what UGC is that people really are coming across as people with like relatable experiences, human like experiences. And an AI video can't recreate that, right? It can kind of recreate like similar aspects, but it can't recreate like you, right? Like how you, come across things, how you interact with products, how you say things. And I think that's why like a lot of the big UGC creators out there that are doing tremendously well, they know how to kind of tap into that emotionability of the viewer, that psychology of the viewer, how to make that viewer be like, oh my gosh, like I relate, I need to, buy it because she's experienced the same problem in it, as an example, and really like hitting those pain points, and also coming in full circle being like, okay, like this is the product you should buy because it's so yeah, I think it's like a really interesting conversation in general. And I think as AI evolves, like it might be a different story, but I think in this space as of currently, it really is like a creator, economy where the creator has like full capability to rock a brand's world with one video because of their experience, because of who they are and their personality. So
Yeah, for sure. And yeah, I mean, it's AI at the end of the day, and UGC is about user generated content authenticity, and AI is not authentic. So it doesn't really make sense. um, but what would you tell someone like who's watching this video right now, Maya, and say that they're in the same place that you were like 18 months ago?
I would just say to have full confidence and put full faith in yourself, because it starts with you. But also, I would say that it's not impossible because there's so many other people that have done what you're trying to do. So I would totally reach for help in those moments where you feel like you can't achieve it or you can't do it, because the beauty of it is that there's so many people that would want to help you reach to that point of UGC. Like it's not something that you do alone. Like it really is something that you can ask for help and to, build that foundation even stronger because you have that outside perspective, you have that outside knowledge. So I think those two things for sure, that's really been helping me, because I'm also, for hindsight, I used to be someone that would never ask for help. Like I was such an individualist, especially in college, being like a computer geek. Like I was always just like, okay, I can figure it out on my own. But I think like relying on, other people, asking for help, asking for guidance, like that's the best thing that you can do for your UGC business, because then you don't have to wait as long and to mess up as, as deep as like other people that are just like, they ask a question, they get help, and then they're just, going up and up and up. So I think those two things have really like helped me in my business. And of course, all the technical things like the systems in place, because that's also important. But I think like putting faith in yourself first and having, that mindset and changing the way that you think about your business and UGC in general and running a business. And then, of course, asking for that help for sure.
Yeah, and then like, how did mentorship speed up your results compared to that trial and error you're doing?
So much, literally so much, so much. I think without like I love mentorship, but I think without mentorship it would have been like, just even, I think it would have been like a way slower process to get to where I'm at now.
What was kind of the biggest difference between like trying to figure it out alone versus having that clear roadmap with a mentor?
Obviously, like kind of what I shared before, like in the initial stages where I was running my UGC business, is like when you're getting inconsistent information, it's going to show up in your business. And I think when you get so much information from so many different people, and when you're applying different, like, you know, applications and ways and viewpoints, it gets overwhelming. But then it shows up, and then it's like your business is all over the place. You're not running like a true organized business. So I think even with mentorship, when you're going to one person, when you're going to one, program where it's teaching you the set process, like, hey, you do step one, step two, step three, so forth, then it's so much easier for you to apply it, because now it's like, okay, I have like the key. I just have to unlock it and apply it right in your business. And that's when like results actually happen, when you have that organization, when you have that consistency. And that comes with having a consistent mentor, consistent program that's teach you all the things that you need to learn. So
Yeah. And what role did community and accountability play in keeping you like on track with growing?
so much, so much. That's like the word of the year, accountability, because I think like a lot of people hate it, and that's kind of like that thing is saying that you're going to do something, whether you're going to actually put the action to it. So I think like having that accountability, especially from peers, is like, hey, it's like a wake up call almost of like, okay, how are you showing up for yourself, right? All correlating to how you're showing up for yourself. And taking that accountability for yourself can be really tough, especially if you don't take criticism well. That used to be me at some point, like taking accountability, being like, oh, is that me? Like, and then be like, yeah. But once you take that accountability for yourself, like self accountability, then you're able to then push the boundaries, push, the obstacles out the way to really get to a place where you're, thriving in your UGC business. So I love accountability now.
Yeah, for sure. Because it gets you a result, right? It's just how it is. Pain before progress. So, did having like direct access to coaches and brand owners kind of change your confidence when pitching?
Yeah, I think so. I think obviously it comes with like time as well, but yeah, I definitely think it helped for sure over time when I was pitching, and also understanding like again like the psychology when pitching, how to pitch, and really creating a system around that that's successful.
Yeah. And then we keep talking about systems, but like everything is systems.
It really is. Yeah, everything's a system.
Yeah. So what's the number one system you couldn't like imagine running your business without now?
Ooh, well, it has to be two. I think my emailing system for one, and then also just my tracker and the way that I like track my business, because that's like the bulk of it, like where everything is, where what email I'm sending, what invoice I need to send, like that's all part of the business. So I think those two things for sure, it like makes my business the way that it runs.
And then how do you feel about like investment essentially you made in your education?
Yeah, I don't like regret my investment at all. I mean, you in like the investment of, in the program and going through the program, like you basically make it, within the 3 months of you joining, even like three times as much. So, I mean, honestly, it's like at the end of the day, you're going to invest in your time anyways in your business. So it starts now, right? Like investing in your education is for your business. So there wouldn't be a reason why not to. And that's kind of like the mindset when I came into it. I was like, okay, I'm running a business. This is an investment that's going into the business that will help me long term. So,
And then how do you feel about like the return you've gotten from the investment you made so far?
oh, the return is great. The return is absolutely like astronomical for sure.
How long did it take? Oh, go ahead.
Oh no, go ahead.
I was just about to say, how long did it take you to feel like your investment kind of paid for itself?
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, like, it definitely took like a month in of being like, oh, okay, like I'm seeing the UGC deals come. I'm seeing everything like, come into fruition. I'm having this invoice be sent. Like, it was a lot for sure. But yeah, definitely within like the end of the month, I was really seeing it for sure. Because again, it's like a ripple effect of everything that you're doing, the new systems and everything new. Then it's like, ooh.
For sure. And then what would you say to like someone like who thinks I'll just figure this out on my own or like for free or do the same thing I've been doing?
Yeah, I mean, you could do that, but it's just going to take you a lot longer and a lot slower just because, again, you're getting a lot of inconsistent knowledge from different people. It's going to show up in your business. So, unless you're able to find an actual organized system, an organized plan for your business, then it'll always be inconsistent and you won't hit the goals the way that you want to. Again, I had the same mindset when I was like in the initial stages. I was like, oh, I'll just find these free UGC stuff. I'll find whatever free info I can and piece it together myself. But it just doesn't work like that.
Yeah. And then I guess like what out of curiosity, like what was your kind of biggest doubt before making the commitment into yourself and what would you say to others who might be dealing with that same struggle?
Yeah, I mean, I know like doubt comes into play when, you're even thinking about like making an investment like that. But I would just say first, like, I guess the way that I think is like, okay, it's going to be pay now, but the it's going to be joy later. Yeah. I usually say like pain now, joy later. So obviously if it hurts now, like there's going to be investment and fruition in that, right? Like anything that you put into, if you put the work in, if you're dedicated enough, like it's going to be something that you're going to like have that return investment in the long run regardless. But also I think in the investment it's like you're making a commitment to yourself to what your business is going to be. So in that same breath, it's like, okay, this is like that should be that turning point for you being like, hey, like I'm really going to take myself seriously and show up for myself and not, spill bull crap into my brain, being like, oh, I can't, like this is the turning point. This is the investment, and I'm going to move forward and I'm going to succeed. Like it's like there's power in the tongue. I always say there's power in the tongue. So that's just how you have to like show up to the doubt that's in your brain. You have to combat that to what your goals are and what is actually true.
And also, I don't know if you've heard the quote, "Lean into the fear" at all.
I heard that quote, yes,
But I feel like that kind of plays into here as well. Do you think?
for sure. Yeah, 100%.
So, what would you say to brand owners who are watching this podcast right now? Like, how would you describe your services and your specialty now that you've gone through this transformation, right? And your niche, and like why brands should choose you?
Yeah. So I think with any brand owner watching it, obviously I would describe my service as really, helping your content strategy, your creative strategy, and really providing that visual service for what your brand is, and really getting helping you with your pain points of having like low ad usage or low fatigue, and also getting to the place of acknowledging what your brand is, how to show up visually and creatively in your brand, and also just like allowing creativity to show.
For sure. Yeah, and we talked a lot about what separates you from like every other creator like in this call. But for the brands listening, I guess if you can publicly state, like what brands have you worked with so far?
Yeah, I mean, I've worked with so many over the course of 2 years. I think what some of my favorite have been Coach.
Coach?
Yeah, yeah, Coach.
My gosh. That's so cool.
Yeah, so cool. Yeah, Coach. I'm trying to like list like bigger brands in my head. Garnier.
Wow. How does it feel to work with like these insane brands?
It's so crazy. I literally, I just lost track because there's just been so many over the years. Like it's crazy. But I mean, I also think too is like, I don't even think it matters of like who the brand is. Oh my gosh, I'm sorry, it got so dark. It doesn't really matter who the brand is, because for me, it really is about like that brand relationship and like how the brand is showing up for me, but also how I'm showing up for them, and how we're really creating something special through this campaign, through this project, and really allowing us to create something special. So I feel like any of the brands that I've worked with in the past has just truly been like such a cool experience to work with, and creating something that is like really great for, mutually for both of us.
Yeah. And can you list like any specific, like for the brands listening, can you list any specific results you've driven for brands?
Yeah, for sure. So with this recent brand that I worked with, it was a makeup company. We were able to have the video reach up to 500K views, impressions, which was really crazy within the first week. And it was because of a certain hook factor that I used and that I actually learned from the program. And when I implemented it, it was like, oh, like this is different. And actually, the brand had a hesitation on the video, but then it just ended up working like insanely good and had a lot of conversions from that. So that has been like, so yeah, it was really like such a cool like experience. And then also with the brand that I recently had that TikTok usage, right? That brand for that particular video had almost like 2.3 million views organically. So when they put ad spend on it, it was like even doubling up on that. And obviously, I don't know what the spend is now, but it was just crazy. It was literally crazy.
That's insane. So you used a hook strategy, it sounds like.
Yeah, for sure.
What do you think like about that hook? And you don't have to reveal the hook by all means, but what do you think about that hook made it work so well?
Okay, sorry. Ask that question again.
Yeah, so what do you think, Maya, like about like the hook? And you don't have to reveal the hook or anything, but like what do you think about the hook made it work so well with the strategy?
Yeah, for sure. So for my hook, I actually use like a 3 pointer. So for me, I always make sure to have a verbal hook, a visual hook, and then a text hook, like for all videos, just because when you're viewing something, it's like you have to be engaged in that first 3 seconds. Like that first 3 seconds is so, so important, especially in any video, especially UGC. So for this particular video, like I did something really crazy, but obviously with the visual hook, like I was able to add like that verbal hook of me like talking to the camera, like the actual thing that was working, and then of course like having a really strong like text hook that was tying everything together. So I think that's kind of like my pathway of having a good hook is like verbal, visual, text, all good that create like a fantastic hook.
Guys, take notes. If you're watching this, take notes. Can you share like an example of a campaign where you, just for the brands listening, where your content directly like improved like conversions or sales? Do you have any like direct like memory of that?
Ooh, I don't think I have direct memory. Yeah, I don't think I have direct memory of that actually.
No worries. Yeah, I mean like it sounds like, I mean, with your UGC strategy so far, you've generated millions of views for brands with your content systems, right? So what kind of feedback do brands usually give you after working together?
I think the best feedback that, and honestly, any feedback that I've received has just been like, "Oh, we love working with you. Like, you're so professional. You have great turnaround time." Because of course, it's like the video, but I think it's also the way that you streamline the whole process of getting to that point of the project, of the communication, of having that like professional communication and showing up, being like, "Hey, I'm a service, so let me show up as a service." So I think that has been such the majority of the feedback being like, we love working with you because you're so professional, you're on point, always on time. And that's really important when you're working with a brand, because if it's something that's like negative, and I've worked with creators before on the influencer side, right? Where, they show up super inconsistent, like they're late, returning due dates and stuff. They're always like missing certain marks on the video from the brief. Like it's a lot of things. So you really have to show up strategically and really be able to take note of a bunch of things of like what they're looking for, the turnaround time when things are due, because if not, then they'll move on to the next creator, and that's how it kind of is. But that's how I approach it in my business, and that's kind of correlates into the feedback that I get of like, you're so professional, everything works super nicely, and of course it's like feedback on my videos being like it's so amazing, so good, and so forth. So
Wow, that's amazing. And even for the creators that don't have that background in like, influencer marketing and stuff like that, like what advice would you give them to, hit the mark that you have?
yeah, for sure. I mean, I think it's really just like learning your skills, right? It's really growing your skills, especially in UGC. So if you're bad in negotiation, for example, learn how to negotiate from YouTube or ask a friend or someone online that you've seen, like a mentor, like, hey, like how do you negotiate, right? Like it's always great to ask questions, but it's also super great to like get that research for yourself and actually build on those skills and learn something to educate yourself. I love learning something new each day, and then I feel like it improves like my UGC business because I become a better industry leader. So you just have to ask the question like, how can you become a better industry leader, whether you're in UGC, content creation, marketing, whatever, right? And anything that you're involved in is like, how can you show up as a better industry leader? So I think that comes to play when you're learning these different skills. And if you are a beginner, it's like, okay, just take note, just do your research, and it'll come to play once you have that knowledge.
100%. And that's beautiful. So, if a brand owner is watching this right now, like what would you tell them about the importance of strategically done UGC like you do versus, just cute UGC that most creators do?
Yeah, so I think there's a big difference. It's like if you want a QC video, you're probably not going to make money. I mean, it kind of comes down to it, right? Like if you onboard someone like me or someone that like strategically do UGC videos and that have a system in place and have like a framework in place when they're making their UGC videos, then you're most definitely going to see the result, because again, it's like having that framework that works, and actually involves conversion and unlocks the psychology of viewers, right? That will help, the brand or whatever campaign that you're running actually read the pinpoints that they're going to make. And I think for me too is like that's the learning lesson of like understanding what a strategic UGC video is and what a cute aesthetic kind of like no thought to it video is like. Because if it's like, cute aesthetic, cool, but it's not gonna probably perform the numbers that you want it to, right? Like that's just how it is. But if you're going for someone, that does strategic UGC and actually put intention behind it, then you're actually going to see the results that you're looking for, whether it's conversions, whether it's engagement, all of those things, all of those key metrics that make a campaign work great.
What do you think most brands, like for also the brands listening to this about you, Maya, like what do you think most brands misunderstand about UGC creators before working with creators like you?
Yeah, so I think majority of what brands misconstrued and misunderstand about UGC creators is just assuming that we're creators, right? Assuming that we're, I guess, just, not a business, so to speak. I think a lot of brands, when they show up to understand what UGC is, right? It's like, oh, you just make content, you just make videos, like, there's no like point to this, right? Like, but at the end of the day, like we're in such a crazy world that everything is content, right? Like if your business doesn't have content, then you're behind. Every business needs content at the end of the day. So it's like once you come into conclusion with that, being like, oh, we need content, we need to like have a brand that's putting out videos showing our brand presence, then you can come into terms of understanding the value of UGC and the UGC creators that are in that space. So that's really like my message is just, you need to understand the value of what UGC is and how it can show up for your business before you can even get to that point where you're working with UGC creators.
And like hop on calls with us. Come on, brands, hop on calls with us. Stop refusing to hop on calls. Yeah, exactly. But yeah, Maya, this podcast has been awesome. Thank you so much for like spilling all of your knowledge and sauce. Guys, if you like this podcast, please drop a comment down below on what you learned. Give us a thumbs up and then subscribe. And then Maya, my final question is where can people find you on social media?
Yes, so you can find me on social media at Maya Age underscore UGC or on Twitter at UGC Maya Age underscore.
Awesome. Well, awesome, guys. Go give her a follow. Again, thank you so much, Maya, for being a guest on this podcast.
Yay! I had such a blast. Thank you so much for having me.
All right. Well, thank you so much. Have a good day.
Okay, awesome.
Bye.
Bye.